Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and David is here with me this chilly LA morning.
When it drops below 68 in LA, everybody freaks out.
Right. So here we are in our long sleeves and our sweaters. We are so excited to be here with you, whether you're listening Monday morning or throughout the week. Every week we present in the Weekly Energy Boost the best practices for drawing to you the most powerful and the most meaningful existence you can have for yourself in the coming week. And I know that sounds like a huge undertaking. The truth is that this direction or the perspective that we provide is something that the Kabbalists teach. If we were just still and didn't pay attention to the external stuff, we would automatically be guided in that direction, right? It's like, if you didn't check the weather on your phone or on TV before you left the house, you'd walk outside and you'd say, I need a sweater, right? This is what the wisdom of Kabbalah provides us with. It is the energy, the meteorology of spiritual energy. And every week, David and I separately look through texts like the Zohar, teachings from the Kabbalists, to glean the best advice, the best suggestions, and sometimes we even give an assignment. I know I wrote for myself some notes on how we can each do our best this week, get what the universe is trying to give us, and therefore create a pathway for greater fulfillment, greater success throughout the year.
That's right. When we want to plant the seed for everybody now and share secrets that deep down inside we know are true, and we believe in them, and we know can bring goodness into our lives. But the way that this world works is that we have an opponent, we have forces within ourselves that we need to transform that are very strong. And that is how we earn the blessings in life. We basically have to wage a war with our negative side, our selfish side, our reactive side, which is always finding a unique way to control us and to subvert our mission in this world. And our job is to provide for you the secrets that you can take for this week to strengthen yourself, to be able to access true fulfillment. And that's really what Kabbalah is about. I mean, beyond religion, beyond even philosophy, spirituality, and science, it's kind of just a system of how our world works energetically. It's the how and the why people go through what they go through. And being armed with that wisdom is really powerful.
One of the things I notice each and every week with our listeners is that we get this comment, oh, perfect timing. Oh, this is just for me. This is exactly what I'm going through. That's not a coincidence. According to Kabbalah, we're all going through some version of this experience. And that's one of the reasons we are committed to this show, is so that you see both the unity and the impact that us working on the same thing together can have on the entire world.
That's right. So let's give them some secrets. What do you want to start with, Elisheva?
Well, I know that every week our viewership, our listeners are growing, and I want to provide a bit of a backdrop to what we're talking about today. One of the things that we share, and one of the first things we learn, actually I think it's class 1 of our Kabbalah 1 course. And if you haven't done the Kabbalah 1 course, you can go to kabbalah1.com.
If you're in LA tonight, I'm teaching a live class in Los Angeles. We have already 500 people registered. If you want to come, it's free to come tonight.
If you know people in LA, send them. My goodness. That's the foundational course that we teach, whether you take it online or live in person. And the first class introduces the idea that before all else, we are first and foremost a soul, a spirit, an energy force, an energy intelligence. And there's a whole intricate story about why we came to the physical reality that we get in class 6 or so. You know, we break it down. But the idea is that if you begin to look beneath the physical material layer, there's a lot more understanding and a lot more satisfaction. Trying to control the physical, reacting constantly to the physical, what's going on externally, you know, the ups and the downs, the how dare they and who what's going on. When you focus less on what's going on outside of you and more on how I can transform what's going on inside of me, the outside responds, what's the right word? Proportionally. So the more I'm going to focus on why I'm here, why is this situation happening to me? We even in the course, we use the metaphor of a movie, that life is like a movie. I'm the main character. All the other people in my life are actors hired by the producer, who is the light force of the creator, right? And that whole plot, it revolves around what my soul came to the physical reality to work on.
And we learned from this week that, to put it simply, when your soul comes to this world, all the blessings that it will ever need and ever desire, so imagine everything that will ever make you happy, is part of you, and it becomes scattered all around the world. So if its main areas are relationship, healing, wisdom, your career success, financial prosperity, it says that all of these, even physical things, physical blessings, physical and spiritual, they're scattered across the world. So you're the partner that you'll spend the rest of your life with and be in love with, or many partners maybe, that you'll have throughout the course of your life, they're all over the world. Now, what will make them come to you? What will make these blessings come to you? Does it mean that you have to go out into the world and find them? Does it mean you have to spend all this money and this time and this agony and have the right technology and the right whatever to try to find all these things? Is it about just grinding all day long to try to be successful?
Is it about being on the dating apps or not being on the dating apps? That's a question I get all the time.
And what's really powerful, what Kabbalah explains, is it's about none of those things. It's about, if a person connects their soul to the light of the Creator through the spiritual work, as we outline in Kabbalah, all of those things that are scattered all around the world, they'll come to you. So imagine you're in a difficult situation, you're in a legal battle, or you're in some kind of a challenge, maybe with an ex or an ex-partner or a friend. It
could be something, challenging coworkers, or your boss is a tyrant, or anything, very from the mundane to the extreme.
And you're looking for a solution. You're looking for what am I going to do to solve this financial problem I'm having? What am I going to do to leave this dead-end job? Like, what am I going to do? So someone might think, well, you got to go look for a job, or you got to just stop being sad and get up and go find somebody else to be with. And what Kabbalah says is, no, actually, before even you would do any of those things, the priority is the spiritual work. And the first thing that we learn in the spiritual work is identify your lack and your fear and transform that, right? So overcome from reactive to non-reactive. So
that doesn't mean not responsive.
Right. Not responsive. I mean, we talk about this in the Kabbalah 1 course in detail, but the thing we want to remind everybody, even our advanced students who are listening, if you have a thought of a fear, something comes up and you have fear and lack and pain, do not now respond or try to fix the problem from this place. What we say is we just pause. We kind of acknowledge the blessing of the opportunity to catch and transform our fear. As long as you don't feed that fear and lack, you will have transformed it bit by bit. So let's say you have fear and you want to reach out to somebody and say something, or you're afraid you're going to lose someone important in your life. So you're trying to manipulate them and reach out to them or do something. Just pause. Let the fear starve itself, and then you have transformed. And what will happen is the blessings that are scattered all over this world will start to actually come close to you and come closer to you. And that's how you attract them. So you don't have to actually go out there and try to guess who's meant to be with you. The Creator will arrange that you will come to this person. As I'm reading here from the Zohar, the Creator will arrange this person will come from across the world to be with you as soon as you have transformed a certain degree.
Right. And just to make sure you understand, Kabbalah is not anti-dating apps. Going on a dating app or going out, getting set up by friends, that may be part of the plan to get you toward that person, not because that's the way to find them, but because that's putting yourself out there is part of the transformation. There are people that it's not, part of their transformation is to stop putting themselves out there so much.
Right.
So It's really, the spiritual path requires an honest reflection on where you're at, on where I'm at, and what I need to focus on, what's beneficial for me, what's not helping me in all aspects. And then you can start to make a game plan.
So several things will happen to us this week. One is, and look out for it. You'll receive an inspiration, something, a feeling, a desire, can even come in the form of a dream. You'll receive an inspiration of something you need to do to break free from a pattern, from something negative, from a fear that you've been a slave to, that you've allowed to hijack your mind and your emotions, you'll first receive it as an inspiration. Sometimes, though, we don't have the strength to act on that inspiration. We just kind of ignore it. We kind of say, well, no, maybe it's too scary. I don't want to deal with it, or it's too uncomfortable. If we don't capture that inspiration, then the universe goes to its default state and we start to be pushed. So this week we'll be either inspired or pushed. If we ignore the inspiration, we'll be forced to deal with certain scenarios in our life that we haven't. So that's the first thing I would want to tell everybody is, as you're going through your life, try to listen. We all have a divine voice. For some people it's louder, for some people it's softer. But sometimes it just means ask the Creator, ask your soul, however you want to ask, whatever is good for you. What is the message for me? The message will come, the inspiration will come this week. And make sure you catch it, because if you don't, then there'll be pain. So if you're having some pain right now, also don't be afraid of it. Listen to it. What is the pain trying to tell you? What is the pain trying to push you to do?
You're not talking about physical pain, right?
No, it can be physical, right? I mean, it can be physical. It can be emotional. Doesn't matter. All pain does the same thing. All pain tries to push a person to become the best version of themselves because they haven't listened to something before.
Okay, so that's a great setup. Thank you for talking about why this week's show is called Choosing Success.
Okay.
And I think the whole, you could look at that phrase and say, well, why wouldn't I want to be successful? But the truth is that one of the first things I think you'll find when you start to study Kabbalah is that your life asks you to redefine what success is. That your success, if I would achieve what you achieved, David, that would not be success for me, because my soul has its own specific and individualized, what do they have in education, IEP? I have my mind has an individual educational plan, and my soul has an individualized educational plan. And so, I think a lot of people make the mistake of looking around them and gauging their success by other people around them, whether it's their friends, siblings, counterparts in other, who's the VP of the competition? Am I making as much as they are? Am I getting as much respect as they are? That kind of stuff. Yeah. So part of what we need to do is make sure that we are not competing, that our definition of success is not about competition. It's not about outdoing anybody else. It is not related to anything external.
Correct.
And that's a very opposite definition to what most of us define success as.
And let's make a practical. Let's give a practical example of that. If something that you see in a friend or someone else out there awakens some form of lack within you, acknowledge that lack right away and just pause, because what will happen is if you don't pause, you'll, without even realizing it, this photo or this situation of your friend who's maybe more successful than you, or is moving on, having more children than you, or buying things that you don't have, all of a sudden you'll react to that, and subconsciously you'll start to do things in your life that are very reactive. You could even start being passive aggressive, maybe with your spouse. You see maybe your friend's spouse do something nice for them, and you all of a sudden you feel lack. And then you'll take out that passive-aggressive nature on your spouse because they're not acting in the same way or whatever it is.
If David is pushing a button in you with what he's saying, go back into our archives and listen to the show called Overcoming Jealousy, because we talk about that sentence that David just said. We talk about it for a full 50 minutes, so we don't have time to get into it today fully, but there's a lot to be said about it. You can go back and listen to that show. And
our spiritual work, really, you have to do two things simultaneously. You have to, and this is a constant work. It's a full-time job. You have to always look at everything you have in your life and acknowledge its energy. Otherwise, its energy starts to leave you. So let's say you live in a house, and maybe the first time you moved into that house, you were very excited and you appreciated and you felt the energy of the house. But over time, you get used to it. You get used to everything. Every day, you have to acknowledge the house and the energy. Otherwise, the energy starts to leave you. Whatever your mind is not focused on, it starts to leave because your mind is that powerful. So if you acknowledge, just even for a moment, say, okay, this amazing, beautiful house or whatever it is, the house starts to have its energy. Now you can move on to expand and go on with your life with all the other things. The problem is people acquire stuff, then they forget that they acquired it and they move on to the next thing. So as they're trying to build something new, the old thing that they got starts to become destroyed. And this always happens in relationships, right? So, when you have obtained a relationship, it starts to not have the priority anymore energetically. So your mind is not there fully.
Right. Finding the one isn't the hard part. Continuing to nurture and nourish the relationship with the one is where the work is.
100%. And I was just thinking about this yesterday. Of all the successful, whatever that means, if it's monetarily or from career point of view or creative point of view, all the successful people I know, I realized for them it wasn't so hard. Of course, they had challenges and pain. A lot of things tried to stop them, but it wasn't so hard for them to become successful. It's very hard for them to keep the success and to keep the energy of the success and the happiness of the success and the fulfillment of the success. And that's where Kabbalah comes in, because it's the spiritual work you do all day long and the spiritual work that you make a priority that will allow you to maintain the blessings and not just play whack-a-mole with your blessings, where you get one blessing but you're losing another, right? You got a great deal but your son hates you. You know,
spiritual whack-a-mole, right? Trademark.
Your relationship's going great, but you're floundering in your career. This is spiritual whack-a-mole. It means that I'm not doing my spiritual work. It means that I'm working hard physically, but I'm not doing spiritual work, because a person who does spiritual work has a blessing in every area. And if you're not having blessings in every area, it's a result of a lack of the spiritual work as we're learning it, which means identifying my tikkun, identifying what I need to correct in this world, and making an effort towards transformation. And I do have a point, not to say now, but I want you to speak, but I'll say it after. I have a point of what to do to actually maintain your transformation, because I think that's also very hard. A person starts to work on something and then they fall off.
Absolutely. I think part of what you said a second ago, David, about having blessings in every area, that doesn't mean you won't have challenges in every area, right, or in any area, right? The fact that there's a challenge doesn't mean it's void of blessing. It just means that that's the universe's way of telling you where to invest, where and what we're talking about here, and we talk about this probably every single week, is how can I preempt the challenge from the outside? Like David was saying, find the inspiration so that the universe doesn't have to indicate to you where the work needs to be done. And I think that the primary lesson we get from this week is that if you don't choose discomfort will be forced upon you.
All right, let's clarify that, because that sounded scary to me. If I don't choose discomfort,
right?
So should I give this radio show, without a chair? Should I just sit in a?
Yes, on tacks. I'm going to put tacks on your chair next.
Should I put rocks in my shoes?
Yes, exactly.
Clarified.
Well, I would suggest that everybody sits down this week and makes a list of the things they don't like to do.
That are positive. That they
right.
know that's positive for them.
Exactly. I don't mean sleeping on a bed of rocks or, any kind of self-torture or anything like that. What I mean is, and I can use myself as an example, I used to hate speaking, right? I've mentioned this before. I was like the shyest. I think about it now. I can't even believe that I managed the level of lifestyle I had by speaking so little. But I really had a lot of trouble speaking in public. And not only in public, like in front of a crowd, but like at a restaurant ordering a dish. So for me, let's say 30-something years ago, 20-something years ago, I would write down speaking, talking out loud, expressing my needs, my wants, my desires, asking for help, right? You can see how on my list, even let's say at 15, I would have said, I need those things to get by in life. Those are positive things. They were still the hardest things in the world for me. So when you make this list, it's not what makes my, what burns my fingertips. It's what are the things that I know I can / need to / should do that I don't want to, that gives me butterflies, that makes me break out into a sweat, that I shy away from, right? An opportunity comes up at work or in your family, and you are the first person to say, not me, right? Not because you are empowering everybody around you, but because it's the last thing in the world you want to do. That list this week is of the last things in the world that you want to do.
And I want to acknowledge people who might be going through something uncomfortable, but that's very positive for you. So let's say you have a relationship that is uncomfortable, but you know it's positive. You know it's helping you grow, but it's uncomfortable. That's a good thing, and you shouldn't let go of it. Let's say you're in a career that challenges you. You know you're growing, and it's making you deal with all your fears. But you do kind of daydream thinking, what would it be like if I just didn't have to deal with all this? That career you are in, at least for now, it's a very positive thing. And it's very positive to stay in situations that are uncomfortable when you're growing. Now, there are situations that are uncomfortable and there's no growth. It's just sucking everyone's energy. And you're staying in it because you're afraid to leave it, right? You're afraid to be alone. You're afraid to start over. You're afraid to reinvent yourself. That means that's different, right? So that's a different type of spiritual work. Sometimes the spiritual work means leaving it in those cases. But I think everyone's kind of looking for that comfortable reality. Everyone's kind of looking for, can't wait till I sell this business. Or I can't wait till I just don't have to deal with that. I can't wait till the kids are grown up.
Do you watch the Kaminsky Method?
I haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
I've only seen the billboards.
So in one of the episodes in the second season.
You're recommending it? It's good?
I think it's very funny. It's very funny. It's very profound. But one of the characters freaks out on another one because he's retired. Mm-hmm. And he's saying to him, don't you know that that's the first ticket to your deathbed? If you don't have purpose, if you don't have meaning. It's funny because at least in the United States, society is built upon retire mm-hmm. early, 401k, mm-hmm. see how you can make sure that you settle down as comfortably as possible. It's very much a comfort driven society. Correct. And again, I think it's important to mention, and then you can finish your thing. We're not talking about being uncomfortable because it's the right thing to do. The seeking out the discomfort, seeking out the ways to challenge myself, that's the way to be comfortable. Like the universe wants to see that we are willing to do whatever it takes, and we only need to be willing. I'm ready to give that speech. You get to the thing, and I don't know. Former President Barack Obama is there to give the speech instead of you, and you don't have to walk through that wall. You thought it was a wall. It actually ends up being made of smoke and mirrors, and you don't have to go through the difficulty that you prepared yourself for. Right. That's one of my favorite things to see, is that once you really do, grab yourself by the shoulders and say, look, you need to do this. Half the time you don't even have to do it. You don't have to have the uncomfortable conversation. You don't have to face the difficulty, because it was just about your desire. If you inside say, you know what, bring it on, the universe says, you passed. You're good. We just wanted to make sure you're willing.
Elisheva is bringing up a huge secret. And that, how many times as parents maybe did we or did somebody say, I can't wait till I don't have to deal with this anymore, this age, this situation, right. This whatever. Now, let's say, I don't know, let's say teenagers, let's say, okay? Let's say...
I love when you talk about teenagers.
The good thing is Elisheva has a child literally in every age bracket from 0 to 30. So she can really, really bring a lot of wisdom in this field. Let's say you are dealing with a child in a certain scenario and you're like, I can't wait till I don't have to deal with this. My child is older. My child is finally married, right? Let's say you have a single daughter or son in their 30s. And as a parent, you're freaking out and you're thinking, I can't wait till I don't have to deal with having a single daughter. I don't have to panic anymore. I know that my daughter or my son will be taken care of. I hear this a lot in my classes. In LA, especially living in a Persian community. I don't know, 70% of people in LA are Persian apparently. This is a big thing amongst the female Persian. You're Persian? Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
You were in the bathroom.
Actually, in this room, it's 66%
I am the minority here.
This room is 66% Persian. Just to think that I was...
That's the reality in Los
ratio,
Angeles.
right? 2 out of every 3 people are Persian. So what was I saying? Okay, that's right. So let's say I've heard this a lot.
Children.
Yeah, I've heard the 36-year-old Persian girl comes to me and says, my parents just keep pressuring me. Now, obviously, the parents, it's a lesson for the parents. The parents should actually accept the uncomfortable situation. At some point, something positive is going to happen. But
I think that there's a lot of pride in that discomfort.
Well, here's the thing: they're aching to get over it. They're aching for their problem to be fixed. What we're saying is, that parent should say, oh, wow, my 36-year-old daughter is not married yet. That, I love that because that's great for my spiritual work. The fact that every day puts me in doubt and fear and shame, maybe even.
I'm saying I think that there's a lot of,
shame,
what is it?
Sure.
How does it reflect on the parent that they have a child in their 30s that's
yes,
not married
imagine
yet?
the parent's best friend say, your daughter still isn't married. And at that moment, when you feel that passive-aggressive comment and that sting, you just pause. And that's your spiritual work. To actually let the burn of the lack, instead of then taking that hurt and then hurting your child and pushing them. All right, so that's the thing. That's what we do. We're always masking our passive-aggressive, cynical, critical remarks as a gesture of I care about you. And so the parent's telling the daughter, why aren't you married, from supposed care, it's really the parent's own fear and lack that's fostering this discussion to begin with.
Right. The whole idea of being a successful parent, right? We have to change that whole paradigm is backwards.
There is no such thing as successful parents. We learned this from this week's energy also.
So I'm saying.
A successful parent is a parent who doesn't have any more fears. That's a successful parent. It has nothing to do with what your children are doing. Your children will then manifest great light as long as the parents are transforming. I hear this from kids all day long. I mean, we're kids. Everyone listening is a kid of a parent. What would inspire you about your parents? Seeing your parents overcome their negativity and their fears and having unity with the people around them.
Yeah, there is so much to be said about this. And I think that the overriding theme in everything we talked about now is not looking outside of me for my fulfillment, for my reassurance, for my strength or confidence, but really drawing it within. And it's important to recognize, to acknowledge the idea that we all have it within us.
Right.
One of the things that Kabbalah emphasizes is that each and every person on the planet is connected to the light force of the Creator and can strengthen that connection through spiritual work. So if right now you're saying, well, that doesn't apply to me because I'm not inspired, or that's not my thing because I don't have a support system. Well, here comes me and David to tell you, you don't need anyone outside of yourself. You don't need anyone outside of yourself in order to do this, but everyone outside of you is there to help you come to that internal growth and transformation.
And that's a great segue into the tool that I want to share about transformation. I actually did speak about it a little bit last week, and this is the tool I'm using for myself all the time. That you learn a concept. Let's say you listen to the show, you listen to something else, you listen to another guru, and you're getting inspired.
Are you calling me a guru?
I said
guru.
Let's say you're a secondary guru after Elisheva. All right, Elisheva is everyone's primary guru, but
Absolutely.
I'm saying, let's say you go to your secondary guru, and you hear something inspiring. What happens is inside of your soul, you feel a very strong commitment to follow that truth that you just learned. Let's say the truth is, I'm not going to be angry anymore. I'm not going to be judgmental anymore. That's a truth. I'm excited about not being judgmental. In fact, the first enemy of mine that walks by, I'm blessing them. And I feel the strength to bless them. I feel inspired to bless them. That's great. A day or two later, things happen. All of a sudden, that inspiration, that truth wears away. That's one. Number two, you could be in a bad mood. You could be hungry. You could be emotional. You could be tired. Again, no strength to follow that truth. So the real secret is, it's not about what do I need to do. It's having the strength and inspiration, the composure to constantly do what I know is true. This is what's really huge for all of us in transformation. So when I learn something, I'm inspired. I know I'm going to pass that test for the next couple hours. That's easy. That's an easy
After
one.
the weekly energy boost, everyone's super spiritual.
The whole world is more spiritual for the first couple hours of every Monday morning.
And then there's an erosion that happens. An erosion, the reactive energy of this world hits you, and you become overcome, and you forget the truth. Sometimes that happens to me when I take a class at night, and I'm like, yes, and I do my meditations before I go to sleep, and then in the morning I wake up and I can't even remember what the class was about, which is why I have a notebook where I write everything down. But that's a built-in function of the universe. Right? You ride that pony for a few hours, you park it, and then you can't find it afterwards.
That's correct. So what I like to do is every time I start getting reactive again, or my truth becomes like blurry and I'm giving myself excuses to do something reactive, I sit myself down and I take about 30 seconds and I say, okay, well, what's my truth again? Go back to the truth. go back, and I associate my truth also with some tremendous pleasure that I know I'll get should I live with it. So we all need to know that if you do the work that we're talking about, the spiritual work, there's tremendous blessings and pleasure waiting for us.
Right.
We're not just doing this to be good people.
That's why I said it's not. Don't be uncomfortable for the sake of being righteous. Be uncomfortable because you know that that's getting outside of your comfort zone is. There are no blessings inside your comfort zone. They are only outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, if you follow the wisdom of Kabbalah as we're explaining it and truly transform, the goal is to have more rewards physically and spiritually than you have now.
Emotionally, mentally, the whole gamut.
Right. If you did the same work without spiritual wisdom, I think you would yield 10% of the results as if you had actually used Kabbalah. I'm talking everything, monetarily, relationship,
Health,
everything.
Love, everything.
So we're saying that. So I keep reminding myself that if I don't live by my truth, I'm going to have less. I'm going to have more chaos. I'm going to have less. You got to keep reinforcing that, because the opponent, that voice of the evil inclination, however you want to call him or her, that force constantly is whispering in our ear, trying to come up with schemes to get us to forget our spiritual truths and go back to laziness, go back to judgment, go back to jealousy, go back to fear-based conversations with people. A lot of stuff's coming to my mind, but I'm restricting.
Well, I want to bring something up. I'm reading the comments, and Daniela makes a really good point that connects to something else I wanted to cover today. In looking at how we define success, right? She's saying here, one doesn't have to be married, right? That's not. Marriage is not necessarily success unless it's part of your soul's spiritual path. And according to Kabbalah, it's possible that in one lifetime or another, you don't need to be married. You don't need to be in a, right? That's not everybody's tikkun. It's most of our tikkuns.
True.
But there's unique lifetimes that for each of us where we don't, we're part of the whether you call it challenge or gift is not being in a long time monogamous relationship.
Sure.
So again, it's that David is saying, check in with you. What's your truth? What is your inner compass guided by? And follow that. Nourishing it, supporting it, reinforcing it with more consciousness, more wisdom, but also remembering who you are.
99.9% of people do need to have some form of partnership to hold them accountable.
I was going to say, you need to explain why, because otherwise it's just...
forget about marriage or whatever. It doesn't even have to be a love relationship, but someone that some people will disagree with me and maybe say otherwise in the comments, which is fine. But in spirituality, having someone that holds us accountable, whether it's a mentor, a teacher, someone we trust.
But someone that you can be fully transparent and vulnerable with. And
that we're willing to surrender and listen to, even when it's uncomfortable. That's very important, because if you don't have that person, then you're forcing that education to come from a more painful source.
Right.
So again, it's not like you have to. We're just talking about it. If you're looking for the fastest path towards growth, having a partner, whether it's romantic or not, it's someone you can't escape from.
Exactly. And it's about accountability at the end of the day.
And that's the powerful thing about any love relationship, a romantic relationship that is monogamous, is that it holds you accountable. Aquarius, hate to hear it, some people, my Aquarius students, no, I don't need anything. I just need myself and nature or whatever. But that is because sometimes people have a hard time having other people tell them what to do. It's very painful. But if you don't listen to those people, somehow the message has got to come.
Right. And that's part of the energy of this month. Right now, we're on the Kabbalistic calendar. We're in the month of Scorpio. And the Scorpion tendency is to be all or nothing.
It's very extreme.
Very extreme. So one of the things we want to watch out for, not only this week, but for the coming 3 weeks, is to not be all or nothing. I can think of someone I know well who listens to the show often and is either supercharged, excited, sharing, spiritual, or leave me alone.
Right.
And we're all going to feel like that. I'm thinking about my past week, just the first few days of the month of Scorpio. I was supercharged, and I was also running on empty. and we talk about astrology and Kabbalah because astrology can assist us. It doesn't have to limit us. I think a lot of people look at astrology as, what can I do? I'm a Scorpio. That's not what we teach. There is no what can I do. Everything is within our power to transform and to determine how it affects us. So thinking about ourselves, every individual this month, whether it doesn't matter if you're Scorpio. Scorpions just might feel it a little bit more. Maybe they're immune. I always wonder if the sign is immune or they just feel worse. But we need to be careful about throwing in the towel. Do not throw the towel in this month.
I love what Elisheva is saying, and to make it even more practical, Elisheva is explaining that this week and this month, the extremes are a test. So when I feel extreme joy and pleasure and happiness, I need to pause, and I need to just
store it for the winter.
Every time you pause and you kind of push that energy back to the universe, you get to keep that energy forever, right? So everything you push away, you keep. Everything you try to take in, you lose. This is a Kabbalistic concept, deep Kabbalistic wisdom. And the second thing is you might go to the opposite extreme, feeling moody, feeling out of gas, feeling energetically,
It's not worth it. Why bother? It doesn't work anyway.
It's a little self-destructive. And in those moments, also know it's an illusion and it's a test. Just pause, push it back. Everything, push it back. And find yourself always in that balancing point. Let's say you have a political discussion with people, and you disagree with what the other person believes or says. That's okay, because it's important not to go to extremes. We were just talking in the car about somebody, without getting into names, obviously, about somebody who was upset because of a political position somebody else took. And why is this person upset? This person is upset because, let's say it's, I don't know, making something up that's charged. Let's say it's abortion. All right. So this person is really upset about a certain abortion topic. Well, why are they upset? They think it's because of opinions they have and the way something should be, and it's not, so they're upset. We learn Kabbalistically the reason why the person is upset is because it awakens in them some form of fear that they brought from many lifetimes. And so it's something that at that moment, the creator, the universe, wants them to transform. It has nothing to do with the topic at hand. What is right? Is it abortion right? Not? That's not the question. The question is, why are you afraid right now? To transform that fear is your mission, not to pass certain laws, not to win debates and arguments. And people are so hard-pressed in winning debates and arguments and trying to make the other person choke on their point of view that they forget that the whole reason of why the creator brought up your fear and anxiety at this moment, the creator wants you to transform it. That's the priority. And whenever you don't put that priority first,
the priority is educating somebody else or schooling them in what they did wrong.
Always. It's very important. You can have a political discussion as long as you're not afraid, anxious, or charged in either extreme.
Well, that's part of the gift of following the energy ebbs and flows of the year. Is every week is giving you another opportunity to reflect and work on something else. And I see the conversation. I love the conversation in the comments. If you know someone who needs to hear what we're talking about, even if it's 5 minutes, send them the timestamp, right? You can tag them in the post, or you can forward the link to them, share it however you'd like. But I just think every so often while we're talking, I have this thought of, imagine if 50,000 more people did just this thing this week.
50,000 could happen. We have
200,000. Yeah. The possibility, and that's really, I don't know about you, but I have a lot of people that I work with that say, look at the world out there, right? The fires that we talked about last Monday, they're still burning. Still. There's, it's much more contained, but there's a lot of chaos going on in the world, and, I can be very spiritual, but I'm not really making a difference. And that's not true. That's the other thing that I think is important to remember when you say you want to throw in the towel, is that our spiritual transformation reveals light that illuminates the entire world. In the same way that when you hold a candle, right, that light doesn't shine only on you. It shines as far as the light can reach. Kabbalah teaches that our spiritual growth and transformation affects the entire world.
That's right.
And that's something that keeps me on the straight and narrow many times, is maybe I'm not motivated enough to do it for myself, but I know that if I'm upset with or I'm not satisfied with the state of the world right now, that's the main way I can contribute from my kitchen, from my desk, from my living room in that moment.
Let me put an ornament on your tree here. If I can use that analogy. I try to wake up every morning and saying my only mission today is the correction of my soul. Nothing else matters, even though all day long I'm involved in all this stuff that, quote, doesn't matter. My number one goal is my spiritual work. So as tests come, this needs to be my priority. And based on what Elisheva said, whatever you believe in your mind is the potential that you start to open up the potential of what can happen. So in my mind, I establish every morning that every bit of light that I reveal to my transformation, it affects the world. So as soon as I establish that, then my little light, my little part of my world actually touches every part of this world. If you don't believe it, then the light stops at you. And this needs to be for maybe another session, another show. The power of our belief systems and our consciousness, how far they reach and how far they go. All limited belief systems limit the energy that comes into our world. So even if I worked as hard as a billionaire, if I don't believe that I deserve it, the energy that comes in is limited to only what I believe. Even if I exerted the effort. So some people tell me I'm working so hard on my business, I'm not achieving any success, but the other guy, so much success, and he has a worse product than I do. And it all comes down to you have a belief system about how much you can receive that's limiting it and blocking all the effort you're putting out there in the world. So yes, everything that we do brings light. Remind yourself how powerful your consciousness is, how powerful you are, and it's as powerful as you want to be. It's endless, however you want to establish yourself. You believe that the whole universe is being changed through your work, it is. And if you believe it's not, then it's not. It's whatever you believe.
Well, that's the globally minded, environmentally concerned perspective. I also know people that could care less what's going on outside of their microcosm.
That's fine.
For those of you that are more focused on your immediate situation and surroundings, here's a little tidbit, and then we can wrap up the show. If every reaction that you have plants a seed, right? Something crappy goes on in my life as a result of a crappy seed I planted in the past, and I have a crappy response to the crappy situation, I'm planting another crappy seed. This is a child-friendly show. I'm planting another crappy seed with my response, with my anger, with my frustration, with my impatience, with my intolerance. And so part of, again, I'm sharing this because it's what helps me. Part of what helps me dial down my response and pause and look for the growth in me is I don't want another crappy situation in the future. I want to make sure if my life is a garden and I get to choose which seeds, which produce I grow, I only want sweet, nutritious, pleasurable, in David's language, experiences in my life that I may not be able to control the crappy seeds I planted in the past, but from today onward, I can be mindful and conscious about the seeds that I plant in my life right now. So there may be a situation, and believe me, I can think of 10 off the top of my head, crappy situations that I've interacted with in the last 7 days. The motivation for me is if I can come from the highest place I can muster, right? Which I'm not saying, well, how high could David go? I'm going to meet him there. I'm looking at what's a stretch for me. What's going to take me? Is it difficult to not tell the person where they can shove it? Is it difficult not to accuse or criticize or name call, depending on, where you are? It is difficult, but it's much more difficult to eat the fruit of that negative seed. Who knows how long down the line.
Yeah, but people aren't.
It's bad business. Don't do it.
People, we're just reminding everybody and reminding ourselves that what we do does create seeds for the future. Sometimes people are just focused on what pleasure I'm feeling or not feeling at this moment. Be damned the future. and we just think, no, nothing's really happening in the future. Future, we'll deal with it when it comes. And we really want to emphasize the power of planting seeds now, going against our comfort zone, dealing with our pain, lack, and fear, and stop projecting your nonsense on other people.
it's so when you start to see the impact of these consciousness shifts, these attitude shifts, I would pick even one thing for this week, right? I said earlier, make a list of the things that are uncomfortable for you, that you definitely wouldn't volunteer to do, that can help you get closer to where you want to be. Pick one. Pick one that you'll have the opportunity to do all the time. Pick one that you'll have that that you really don't want to do. I mean, I can think of different, not only my personal experience, but I've challenged students of mine to do just do one of them, but really consistently and with passion. I promise you will see miracles.
Don't do it with the poo-poo face.
No, yeah.
Don't do it begrudgingly.
You look great today, David. I loved what you said yesterday, David. If you're watching on the camera, you can see my face. That the opposite, that it's so much more about the energy. I know when you were away, Batya gave this brilliant metaphor for life. Batya Salomon was on the show a few weeks ago when David was out of town, and she said, we're all immortal. I'm reminded because someone put it in the comments, we're these immortal beings. They come down to the physical reality wearing a virtual reality suit. And the virtual reality suit comes with a narrator, right? Telling you, almost like Terminator, you get the screen of assessing what's it. But you have to remember it's virtual, right? The real you is what's in the suit. So the body, the pessimism, the anger issues, all that whole package is part of the suit, not part of the soul. And we can use the suit to unleash the power of our soul. Right. So for me, thinking about walking around with those funny, the VR lenses or whatever, being in a suit and kind of trying to, that's really, I loved it because it really helps to sort of put into perspective and desensitize, but I don't want to acknowledge that person, or I don't want to be grateful to that person, or why not? Like, what do you have to lose? Your ego, right? That part of that voice in the suit that really isn't connected to what's going on here and is just there to challenge you to be your best.
Love it. Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Okay. First of all, start this week by redefining success. It's not outside of you. The fact that you'll reach any benchmarks, any, tax brackets, anything like that is not a result of the external. It's the result of the internal. Focusing more on the internal will bring you more fulfillment and more results on the outside. Yes. That's number one. Number two?
Even for all advanced students, when I reemphasize to go back, I tell all my students to take Kabbalah 1 every year. It changes. The content is so deep and rich. You have my personal promise that it will change your life. We will have, everybody can watch a professionally recorded masterclass of Kabbalah 1 on Kabbalah1.com, KABBALAHONE.com. Incredibly powerful. And if you're in LA, even if you're not in LA, truthfully, if you wanted to hear the recordings, you could also come and register here in Los Angeles. It's tonight, every Monday night, 7 p.m.
For 10 weeks.
For 10 weeks.
Whether you do it on, the masterclass is 10 sessions. It's actually 40 sessions, something crazy like that.
It's 10 sessions with a lot of bonus classes.
10 topics. The live class is 10 topics. It's up to you. I get only good feedback from the masterclass. I work with people who are watching it, and it is great.
Yeah. All advanced students, I call out to you to try to connect to it as well. And people can always reach out to me through Messenger, tell me their comments and feedback. I'm getting stuff all day long. And it's an incredible, we're creating a whole community around Kabbalah 1 and 2. So it's really powerful. My last advice for you would be, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't throw what do we say? Don't throw in the towel, right? The Scorpio mentality is, if it's not going well, destroy it. Let it burn. Don't do that this week. Don't do that, for the next coming weeks, but watch yourself and your attitude of why bother? It's not worth it. It is worth it. And the more worth it you make it, the more powerful it can be. We'll be with you next Monday here on Facebook Live, but you can also catch us on YouTube, IGTV, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Castbox, and Stitcher. Subscribe, post your comments, leave reviews, and you can always reach us at energyboost@kabbalah.com. Thank you guys for joining. Keep commenting. We go back to answer the questions and read your comments afterwards.
Have a fabulous week, everyone.